welcome back. It's been a while. It is above zero again, so my motivation levels have risen to get this stupid car running for the spring. So I have all the parts I need. I'm pretty sure my engine bearings finally came in, but before we get to that, gonna work on the subframe, so let's get to it. I was just kidding, you're not stupid, you're not stupid. Regarding automobiles, yeah. Project for this video is, as you can see here, there's a lot of rust in the bay area, in the engine bay area, down by the subframe, some cooling lines, just overall really just rusty and ugly. So what I'm gonna do today is try to pull the subframe out entirely and just clean everything up and put it all back together. So let's get to it. From what I can tell, the only thing really that's attached to the car is there are two bolts here, 1 and 2. The power steering will all come out together with it. The actual steering column is connected, and then at the back, there's panels with 3 bolts in them that will come out. And if there's another bolt underneath, then I'll pull that out too. Hopefully I can put the jack under here and just drop the whole thing out. No problem. I've already hit everything with penetrating oil, so it should be no problem. No problem at all. Okay, that actually worked. Just realized that before I undo the steering, I should make sure the wheel's straight.
Look ahead, look astern, look the weather in the lee. Blow high, blow low, and so sail we. I see a wreck to windward and a lofty ship to thee, a-sailing down along the coast of High Barbary. Then hail her, O captain, he called o'er the side. Blow high, blow low, and so sail we.
Okay, there's one more set of bolts up back here that are holding everything in, but I'm going to disconnect the steering column first if I can. Okay, what did it was this safety bar from my jack. I put it on the end, hit it with a hammer, came out. Once again, another kind of strange looking bolt. See, it's got kind of like a extra little thing here, flange, I don't know what to call it. Something that was just makes it so that it's not a normal bolt. Okay, I think it's all disconnected. Certainly seems disconnected when I do this. Okay, well, that's the first part done. No problem. Let's take a closer look. So here we are, the full subframe is out. Very rusty overall and just like years of corrosion. Just like all the rust flaking off. You can see over here, very rusty. I think it seems to be in fairly good shape overall, but just rust from all the winters. So sway bar with a little bit of rust on it. Back here is not too bad, but still rusty. So the only new piece on this so far that I've done myself, I believe, was this line. I've already ordered the other one, so we'll have to empty this again. And I've got a bunch of new parts, so I'm gonna pull it all apart, strip it all down, make it look pretty. So we now have almost a bare subframe. It's rusty. It's rusty. Not like falling apart rusty, not like I need to weld rusty, but definitely I need to clean this up rusty. The first thing we need to really take care of is our old friend, the engine mount right here. It gave me so many problems up until this point, and I just need to get it out of there. So I'll have to hit it with the grinder and get that out of there. Let's do that. So my plan of attack here, originally I was gonna try and cut in here, but that would still leave this here. So I'm just gonna grind off the top of this. It's tough to get the angle right for the grinding wheel because there's little flanges that stick out here and here. So I'm gonna try my original plan, which is just cutting wheel right down in between the mount and the subframe. Here's the bushing. Torn obviously all around, it was spinning freely in there. And then the bolt was just, I guess, fused to the inside there. Anyway, I've nicked it a few times, but that shouldn't matter. Once I put new bushings in here, that's not gonna affect like the structure of it. All right, so we just finished that whole welding video to get this nut on. And at this point I was gonna take the whole thing to a sandblaster and have them sandblast it so I could paint it, but we are now under another lockdown, so a stay-at-home order. So I'm gonna get a wire brush and see how long this takes me. Okay, here we go. I've had a little bit of a change of heart. After spending about, I don't know, an hour and a bit with the wire brush, I calculated it was gonna take me about 8 to 10 hours to actually clean this thing up. And that doesn't include priming and painting. So I've had a change of heart, and I now believe you should support your local sandblasting and painting shop. I sent this out with the control arms and the crash tubes to all get redone in this black polyurethane, and I think it really turned out well. And for the amount of effort that it was gonna take me, all 5 pieces was $300, and so I think that's a good deal, and it's a good use of my time. So we can move on to the next thing. Okay, so we're gonna go for the this is the steering rack, and we're going to replace the tie rods and the bellows. The bellows actually look like they're in good shape, but I'm just gonna do everything. You know, when something sits for a long time and you don't work on the car for a long time, you spend a lot of time looking at parts and you're just like, I'll just get this and I'll just get that. And things like the bellows were $8, the tie rods were, you know, $20 or $30, I think. So everything's like these small amounts, you just order them over time. So a lot of the little things I'm gonna replace and just never have to worry about it again. Because when am I ever gonna have the steering rack out in this state? I mean, they're not in the greatest shape. They're probably seized, to be honest, so might as well put new ones on. Okay, so there's the old versus new, rusty versus new. The lengths are about the same, but I'll adjust it obviously to the same length, and then I'll have to get an alignment after. Okay, everything was going according to plan. Now I noticed this was moving around a lot. This is the power steering sort of mount, and I'll get a good shot of it here. It is split and very loose here. So I think it might be supposed to be split, but it's definitely not supposed to be all loosey-goosey and like crappy like this. So we're gonna replace that too. Okay, so here's the power steering bushing. It's full of random crap, and I can sort of squish it with my hands. It's not dead, I don't think, but it's sure not in good shape. And when it's in the car, it's like this. And it pinches down, and then that mounts up. So just need to get the new bushing itself to add some stiffness. Okay, so I've got the new bushing here. You can see it's a lot harder for me to squish this, or I don't know if you can see that. Here's your part number. Comes with just the bushing and a little bit of grease. Guess maybe to stop the squeaking, I'll put it sort of everywhere. I can already tell just by touching it that it's going to be a lot stiffer. I'm not sure. I guess it'll help the steering be more precise. But I can tell just from the way these things go in and out of it that it's a lot stiffer now. To be honest, when I bought the power steering, or yeah, the steering rack bushing from Powerflex, I was just kind of buying it because there was a bunch of like the shipping is super expensive. So the price into Canada, so the price of the bushings actually is quite low each if you just buy a whole bunch. The shipping is more expensive than the bushings. So I just added it, not knowing exactly where it went. Only when I saw it right here was the first time I realized where it went. But it's gonna be so stiff. The stiffest. So that's it for tonight, but it's, both tie rods are done. Steering power steering bushing, or I guess steering rack bushing is done. Let's move to the next thing. Okay, now I have this painted. I've cleaned up the steering rack with some degreaser. It has all the new tie rods in it. So now it's just a matter of putting everything back together. It's been a few weeks since I've pulled it apart. So I've got my diagrams, and yeah, let's get started. I would also like to point out that with paint on it, this looks much better. Small celebration. This is the first piece I've ever put into one of these bags with one of these labels that has gone back on the car. I feel like we're at a turning point. Okay. So next part is, I guess, these rear wishbone brackets. And I've gotten, this is the old bushing. These just came right off when I was taking it apart. Obviously, they're just dead. So I went to a press with Spear Pseudo, and he pressed these in for me. These are the new Powerflex bushings. Here's your part number. They come in a pair. And again, I went for the black ones because we want it to be as stiff as possible, as tight as possible when we're doing this, or when we're steering. And this will bolt on to the subframe. This will bolt on top, and the sway bar goes through there. And there's bushings that go in there. Now the factory bushings are these guys. All right, so they're kind of rusty. Actually, the entire old sway bar was completely rusty. And so they're kind of like dead and, you know, not great. So again, keeping with our theme, I went for some black ones. And so those will provide maximum stiffness, maximum tightness on the sway bar. And then one last thing is that I mentioned that the old sway bar was rusted out. And I'll show you here where the old bushing was. It looks like it's sort of rotted away underneath it. So it's skinnier than the rest of the bar. That is not the case on the other side here. And I thought, well, I'm putting these new bushings in, but then they won't be as tight as I want because all the rust has actually made this skinnier. So I ended up ordering a new sway bar just off of off eBay. It was pretty cheap. It came from Arizona, so I know it won't have any rust on it. And what is the difference between the two? How much skinnier could it possibly be, you think? Well, we'll put it on here. Can you see that? Okay. And a new one, which again had no rust on it at all. Will that make a difference? I don't know, but when you're sitting around in the winter, having a beer, going through eBay looking at parts, it seems like a good idea at the time. So I have a new sway bar. It's the same thickness as the factory one, but it was super cheap. So I figure why not? And you may ask yourself, why wouldn't you just upgrade to a better sway bar? Well, I'm not doing the suspension right now. I'm just trying to get the car back running. And if anything, I would do the rear sway bar. I think the front one's actually fine. So yeah, I'm just gonna go back with the factory one. Okay, so next up is the actual wishbones. And I had not noticed, I've taken them off, I've done a bunch of work to them, but I hadn't noticed that there's a little, a little like bend here, which means that these have been an accident. I think probably somebody just hit a curb or something, and then they just put them back on. I just had these painted. I just didn't realize, somehow I didn't notice before I got them painted. So the main support here isn't bent or marred at all, but it's just sticking up so things won't sit flush. So I think I'm just gonna try and hammer it down. And if that doesn't work, then I'll grind it down. I should just buy a new one, right? Son of a bitch. Okay, here we are. 1 week and $100 later, which is now the unofficial slogan for this car. I've got two brand new arms here. I want to get matching ones. I've re-tapped them. Let's keep going. Here's one. Here's the control arm with no bushing, piece of the bushing on. And here's the one with it on. Just the Powerflex, washer. There's a hollow side and a flat side. The hollow side goes down. And then this piece goes over it. Now I've seen it both ways. I've seen it where you put this into the bushing and the bracket and everything, and then you mount it all up. And then I've seen the way which I'm gonna do. Okay, now here's the control arm with the bushing pressed in, put in place, ready for installation. And again, I went with the black racing bushings, the Powerflex, because I wanted, tight suspension. And this is gonna be way, way tighter than the stock suspension. So it's gonna be super tight, but it's not gonna be like tight. So in order to give a little more to it, I also picked up this kit. And what I'm gonna do, or what I've already done, is modify the end of the control arm here. So I'll show you that. This is what we're about to install. And from the factory, it's got, hopefully you can see there's just a hole here, and it's just a hole. Nothing ever goes in there. What we're going to do is tap a thread into there so that we can add the reinforcement from the Powerflex bushings. I've never actually tapped anything before, so this will be the first time I'm trying it. But I think it'll be pretty straightforward. My only concern is that the hole is a hex, and obviously if you're threading, you're just threading in a circle. But I've got a tap and die set here, and let's get to it. This is the bolt from the kit that needs to go in there. And this is what I'm going to be using, and you can see it's basically the opposite. So if I run this through, it should cut the metal out and allow this screw to go in. Alright, so from what I've read, you want to make sure it's absolutely... Oh, this isn't straight. It's a good start. It's a really good start. And the idea will be that I go one full turn, half turn back. One full turn, half turn back. Okay, moment of truth. Oh yeah. Ooh. Oh, there's gonna be a washer. What is it gonna be in there? There's gonna be a washer. You know what? I might as well just cut it a little more. But damn, it's like I know what I'm doing here. And with that done, we now have that threaded piece in here, and we can drop a spacer in, a washer that comes with it, a gigantic washer that comes with it, and I secure it all in place with a bolt. So essentially what we're doing now is just adding a little extra support to the back of this bushing here to keep it all compressed. And again, this is just to make it a little tighter. And so we have the entire control arm, got the ball joint here just loosely put in. That'll tighten down later, and it's ready for installation. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. I just need to torque all these down to the right settings, but everything is looking pretty good. It's a new used sway bar with no rust damage. New sway bar bushings. New control arm rear bushings with the supports. New control arms in general, actually, because of the damage. New inner ball joints. And I think everything else, obviously all the rust has been removed, so I'm sure there's some weight savings there. I'm not going to calculate it because I also added the paint. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this turned out. I cleaned up most of it. There's a little rust here and there, but I'm not going to worry about that like on the pump and stuff. The one thing that I'm missing here that you've probably noticed is the power steering reservoir. It'll go up here. And you know, I've got a new one, actually one of those sweet chrome ones that I'll be installing. But there's some other stuff I need to take care of inside the car, which is like the exhaust and probably your shift cables. But for now, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. And it won't go back in the car right away, but this is progress. It's about the most progress I've had in a while. I'm really happy about it. So maybe this car is gonna run this summer after all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. You should